Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau unveiled his new cabinet today. There are some familiar faces continuing on with their roles.
And there are a few new faces, including a new Minister of Indigenous Services. Jamie Pashagumscum has that story.
The Prime Minister made considerable changes to his cabinet. First off, Seamus O'Regan is out as Minister of Indigenous Services. He's been moved to Natural Resources. Mark Miller will take his place, and Miller is the former Parliamentary Secretary to Carolyn Bennett. Before O'Regan, Jane Philpott held that position. Carolyn Bennett will stay on in her position as Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Here's what Trudeau had to say about his cabinet choices today.
This Parliament will be one in which collaboration, in which working with a broad range of parties and indeed stakeholders across the country is going to be incredibly important. And the team that we've assembled here is a team that is going to focus on working hard every single day for Canadians, and I'm extremely excited about getting to work with them.
Here's what Conservative Pierre Poilievre had to say.
We will work with other opposition parties to get to the bottom of the SNC and Mark Norman scandals. We'll work with any party that wants to lower taxes, balance budgets, advance pipelines, support lawful immigration, enact true environmental conservation.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced the three things they will be holding this particular cabinet accountable to.
Really, our focus is on healthcare. That's a key problem that came up during the campaign. We want to see commitments to pharmacare and dental care. Indigenous justice. The first people of this land need real justice. That means quality housing and drinking water. And then I've raised the concern around beyond health care and Indigenous justice, we want to see concrete action on the climate justice file that includes creating jobs.
Justin Trudeau's new cabinet will meet for the first time here on Parliament Hill tomorrow. Jamie Pashagumscum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Two northern BC First Nations are in a 200-day legal battle with Rio Tinto, both federal and provincial governments, over protection of the Nechako River. They held a rally outside the Prince George Courthouse. APTN's Lee Wilson was there.
The Sykas and Stalatin First Nations rallied outside the courthouse in Prince George, while inside, lawyers argued about the impacts of the Kenny Dam on the Nechako River. The Kenny Dam was built 67 years ago to power an aluminum smelter in Kitimat. That smelter is owned by the Rio Tinto company. The Sykas and Stalatin say the dam is killing sturgeon and salmon. Jasmine Thomas is elected councillor of the Sykas band.
The Kenny Dam was built in 1952 during a time when it was illegal for our nations to gather together and also to seek legal representation to pursue the courts. So now we're in a position in this country where the political and legal landscape has shifted.
The 200-day trial is being held in Vancouver. About 5 days are set aside for Prince George so elders and members could testify. November 18th was day one.
The impacts to not only our fisheries, in particular salmon, but also the endangered white sturgeon, and also just the biodiversity that the river once supported.
Both communities want the court to force Rio Tinto to raise water levels high enough to support the fishery.
We would ultimately like to see the flow raised in the Nechako River. In our language, Dakash language, the Nechako translates to the mighty river. So we would like to see a water level that can support and sustain the biodiversity.
But Rio Tinto points to a 1987 agreement. Rio Tinto has always and will continue to operate with all required permits and approvals under applicable laws, including the 1987 tripartite agreement with the Canada and British Columbia governments that ensure protective flows for fish. The province says they are not able to comment as the matter is before the courts. The trial moves back to Vancouver next week. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Northern British Columbia.
The First Nations Power Authority was created to increase investment and construction of green energy in First Nations communities in Alberta. This week, it's hosting the 5th Annual Indigenous Green Energy Forum at the Cree Nation just outside of Edmonton. APTN's Chris Stewart was there.
Indigenous leaders from across the country were in Enoch Cree Nation to listen to experts on the environment, old and new energies, and to figure out how to tackle climate change while creating green jobs.
But we're here to tell you that there could be a brighter and better future for us And I think that's for, as First Nations Power Authority, is one of the things that we're hoping to do is help transition First Nations to that brighter and greener future.
The Power Authority has helped communities get invested in clean energy. Guy Lonechild is the CEO.
Both on reserve and in many of Canadians' large cities, we have to become more energy efficient, and so that requires skilled tradespeople to be able to do retrofits. And so that's a tremendous opportunity, and it's a natural fit for many First Nations who suffer with overcrowded housing.
Chief Lynn Akus is from Zegame Aniskabet in Saskatchewan. She is here to learn more about how her community can get involved in renewables.
I'm here, to learn and to make contact with, people involved in renewables and make contact and maybe bring some opportunities home for our communities.
Opportunities like creating and selling renewable energy, she says, and getting rid of the most carbon-intensive fuels.
I think, the use of natural gas combined with solar and wind energy makes a lot of sense in Saskatchewan, especially eliminating the use of coal-fired power plants. I think is really, there's an open door there for investment.
In Alberta, Guy Lonechild is hopeful the new Alberta First Nations Opportunity Corporation will include renewables in projects they approve as part of the $1 billion in loan guarantees. The province has said renewables may be included if First Nations can show they're a good investment.
We think that the renewable energy sector needs to be able to be supported by that fund. It can't be all just about one major project, i.e. a pipeline. There's got to be other opportunities for development of biomass, for example, or geothermal.
The Power Authority is projecting to double the current amount of renewable power installed by 2030. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Enoch, Cree Nation.
Cowessess First Nation hopes a new initiative will help bring back their loved ones. A new 10-bedroom home is now open and offering a safe haven for foster children. The facility is intended to help girls gain back the traditions they may have lost. CTV's Allison McKinnon has more.
It's a special day on Cowessess First Nation. The Sacred Wolf Lodge is a brand new facility made for girls within the foster care system aged 14 to 21. The reserve has over 130 children in care throughout Canada, and this new home offers those girls a safe space to learn more about their culture right in their home community.
One of the toughest people to beat in this country is a First Nations female. There's sometimes ignorance, privilege, we just know the history. And so to specifically address that age category, we're getting right to the core of it.
The facility offers 10 bedrooms, and it may be the first time some of the girls have had a place to call home. Officials say it's a great way to bridge the gap with those who feel they don't quite belong.
A lot of them that I've worked with have told me that there's always something missing when they're out there. In the foster home or when they're aged out. When they age out, you're kind of lost because they're not really accepted in the white world. They're not accepted in our world because they don't know us. So we wanted to make sure that they know where they come from, they know their identity.
Frances Delorme says this is something she wished she had when she was growing up in childcare.
It's a good thing that this is happening for our children that are still out there lost. It's just a dream come true for me, as I survived it, but I'm so grateful now that I'm a part of the community and also working for the community.
The facility is officially open, and Chief Cadmus Delorme is optimistic about the future.
If we can strengthen our young females at this age, we are going to be in good hands moving into the future.
This may only be the beginning, and there are hopes that homes for boys and different age groups may be a reality in the near future. Allison McKinnon, CTV News, Cowessess First Nation.
The Imaginative Film Festival in Toronto presents Indigenous films from across Canada and the world. And it was announced at this year's festival that Imaginative is now a qualifying festival for the Oscars starting in 2021. There are only a few qualifying festivals in Canada. We spoke earlier with Executive Director Jason Ryle about what this means for Indigenous filmmakers and their work. Jason, thanks for taking some time for us. How did Imaginative get involved with the Academy Awards?
Well, it's relatively short, but I think fruitful relationship that we've had. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which awards the annual Oscars, has a process for some of its categories whereby film festivals become qualifying festivals for some of the Oscar categories. And there's an application process that's involved in becoming one of these qualifying festivals. So this is the process that we undertook.
Pretty exciting stuff. How does a film qualify for the Oscars then?
Well, in our case, it involves the prize for our best short film, which we named after our founder, Cynthia Laker-Sage. And the winner of this prize each year from this past festival that just happened in October going forward will be eligible for the best live action short Oscar, provided it meets the Oscars and the Academy's eligibility criteria. So in order to get a nomination in this category, a film would either have to have a theatrical distribution somewhere in the States or win a prize at a qualifying festival. So in the case for us, the winning film of the best short live action short film then becomes eligible for automatic submission into the Oscars to be considered for a nomination.
Are there any other Indigenous film festivals out there that can qualify films for the Oscars?
No, none that we know of. I mean, we're very happy and very proud to be the first. Imaginative, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary last month, which is a huge milestone for us, but also for the Indigenous screen community that's been going for decades. So for us, it was an incredible way to cap off our 20th anniversary. And we know there's a lot of excitement amongst our audiences and amongst filmmakers for this great news.
No kidding. So what does this designation mean for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit filmmakers and their work?
Well, I certainly hope it means, long overdue recognition from the Oscars for the talented filmmakers that have been making work for a very long time. Through my line of work, I really have the privilege of seeing an incredible depth of artistic vision, of creativity, of storytelling that's really unsurpassed. And so this is just another example, a really golden, shiny example, potentially, of the recognition that these talented filmmakers deserve. So what it means for me is I really firmly believe that there's going to come a year very soon where Indigenous filmmakers will be nominated for and winning Oscars. And this is an important step in that direction.
Well, really cool and exciting news, Jason. Congrats on the 20th, and appreciate you taking some time for us.
Pleasure. Thanks so much.
A smudging ceremony in a BC classroom is heading to court.
We'll tell you all about it coming up after the break.
Welcome back. A mother on Vancouver Island is suing the Port Alberni School Board over smudging in the classroom, saying the ceremony infringes on her child's right to religious freedom. The week-long trial began Monday in Nanaimo. APTN's Lori Hamlin has the story.
Smudging is believed to cleanse negative thoughts and energy, and for the Nechako on Vancouver Island, the ancient practice is a vital part of their culture, which is now being taught in BC classrooms in an effort to promote reconciliation and to help Indigenous students.
We have dismal graduation rates, and things are changing. We're getting better, and part of that is because we can do things like this. People have cultural weeks or months and activities all along, and schools are raising welcoming figures, totems, and trying to make the place comfortable for our Indigenous students to attend. So all of these things are really critical to that kind of success.
But one mother, Candace Servatius, an evangelical Christian whose 2 children attend John Howitt Elementary School in Port Alberni, is fighting the school board in BC Supreme Court to ban smudging from classrooms. Sayers says she was shocked when she first heard about the lawsuit.
The cultural teachings go on all the time in the schools. We've never had anyone protest before. And so it's the first time we've ever had anybody come out against anything that we're doing in the school, because they usually love it.
In September 2015, a letter from the school's principal was sent to parents to inform them that John Howitt Elementary would be hosting a traditional Nuchalnath cleansing. Concerned that the smudging ceremony might be religious in nature, Servatius immediately went to the school, only to find out the cleansing had already taken place. Servatius and her lawyer declined an interview, but speaking to APTN, John Carpe, the president of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, the organization representing Servatius, said the mother isn't against her children learning about other cultures. This is not a court action to seek to remove Aboriginal culture and spirituality from the curriculum. The applicants are very happy to see it there. There is a difference about teaching about versus getting children to participate in. The court needs to determine whether smudging is religious, and if the ceremony infringes on the Charter right to religious freedom. Religious freedom means the freedom to practice your religion, and it also means not to be compelled or coerced or pressured into practicing a religion that is not yours, or that you don't agree with, and religion broadly includes spirituality and the supernatural. The daughter told her teacher that it would make her feel uncomfortable, and the teacher told her that it was rude not to participate, and that she was required to participate. So she was pressured into it. She did not want to do it. Sayers says she doesn't want anyone forced to participate against their will, but does want smudging continued in classrooms. And she's adamant that the ceremony and Indigenous culture is not religious.
There is no word in our language for religion. And that's just not, our way of life. Spirituality is very different. And we're hoping that this sort of arguments is going to sway the court, and that we want to be able to continue teaching other children about our way of life, our beliefs, and if this stops it, then we're in trouble.
The trial is expected to finish on Friday. Lori Hamlin, APTN National News, Nanaimo.
The Shize Leads the World Women's Leadership Summit kicks off in Whitehorse today. The 2-day event is intended to empower female and non-binary leaders to make big impacts in their industries and communities. Through breakout sessions and panels, attendees will hear from local leaders about confidence building and breaking down systemic barriers, negotiating salaries, and how to create a community of support. Leadership coach Maureen Johnstone is a speaker at the summit.
I think that we always think we have to do something more or be something more, and that's not true. It's enough to connect to, I'm going to say again, what you stand for, what you believe in, and for me that's in a deep, meaningful way. Like we all have ways of being about ourselves that guide how we take our steps every day.
A strange howl in the woods of northern Ontario has got people trying to explain what it might be.
That's still ahead, and here's the rest of tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting off in northern Alberta, we've got -3 and sunshine for high level in Fort McMurray. +1 for Edmonton, Red Deer and sunny skies. -1 for Calgary. 3 and sunny in Kamloops and Quesnel. 7 and sunshine for Bella Coola. -2 with a mix of sun and cloud in Fort Nelson. 4 degrees and sunshine in Prince George. -8 and sunny in Beaver Creek. -15 mix of sun and cloud in Old Crow. -14 and snow for Norman Wells. -1 and snow for Yellowknife. -17 and snow for Tuktoyaktuk. -14 in Nunavik with snow. -15 and sunshine for Baker Lake, Repulse Bay, snowy and -15. -22 in Tallyoak and Goya Haven, and it's mostly sunny up there. -18 with a mix of sun and cloud in Clyde River, and -2 and snow in Cape Dorset. Welcome back. How Indigenous people are portrayed in the media, or how stories are framed that are involving Indigenous communities or an issue that affects Indigenous people, it's often the subject of criticism. But in this time of reconciliation, are we seeing an improvement in the quality of tone and accuracy in media coverage involving Indigenous people? That was the topic of today's In Focus. Let's take a look at what some of our panelists had to say.
The very first thing that came up was a 1909 story about the Dokis First Nation, which is just across the lake from Nipissing First Nation, and they had received a timber settlement, and there was, I guess, a fair amount of money being given to each First Nation member, and the headline was that even the squaws were popular sweethearts with all this extra money.
And could you believe what you were reading at this point?
Not really, but you know, and then again, you know, when you think about it, it was 1909. But yeah, it shows where the seeds of racism started, probably.
Well, it's hard to pinpoint just one thing, but right away, the falling back on really troubling stereotypes, representing family in really destructive ways, falling to sort of a colonial and very racialized discourse that was going on in, I would say, across the board in the mainstream media.
Canada and America, we have a very similar backstory in terms of colonization and settler colonialism, and I think that those histories, those pieces of context that help a reader understand how a community came to be experiencing the things that reporter is there covering, are often lacking, and that usually starts with the reporter themselves.
You can watch that episode of In Focus on our website, aptnnews.ca, or you can catch it on your TV tomorrow when it re-airs at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. To Ontario now, where a man is left with many questions after a bizarre experience during a hunting trip last month. Gino Mikas was grouse hunting with his wife and grandson in northwestern Ontario when he heard some strange noises.
Oh my God.
He and his wife and grandson first heard that howl when they were walking back to their car at the end of the trail along the Vermilion River, about 45 minutes from the town of Sioux Lookout. Initially, Mikas thought it was a moose or a bear, but the experienced hunter quickly realized that it was a sound he's not familiar with. Mikas posted 2 videos on YouTube where they have since gone viral, racking up 2 million views. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a wolf, Mikas says we may never know.
Of course, you and I already know.
It's for sure Sasquatch.
It's for sure. We're going squatching and Sioux Lookout in the coming days, hopefully.
It'll be a face-to-face and an In Focus.
We'll sit down with the Squatch. And
finally.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week of shows from Sioux Lookout. That's your APTN National News for this Wednesday. Don't forget to download our APTN News app on your phone so you're never out of the loop. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. And be sure to tune in to APTN In Focus tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on APTN for a checkup on how media is reporting on our people. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a good night.